right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we are on the final part of our three-part series on PMP certification. We had three power-packed episodes that we were running each Friday for the third Friday now. And today we're going to be diving into the last of it, which is diving straight into the meat of it, which is your PMP exam strategies, your study plans, and practice. So, once again, hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining in. And let me tell you a little bit about upGrad KnowledgeHut. And upGrad KnowledgeHut has been around for almost 15 years now under the umbrella of upGrad, has a good presence globally for professional skilling, and we have more than 450,000 professionals all over the world with partners, clients, enterprise partners of 4,500. And we have a professional presence across all of these countries, over 100 countries and counting now, right? In episode one of this series, we kicked off with the essentials of PMP, where we went over the eligibility, the application process, a little bit about that, and how to plan your preparation for the exam. Last week, our expert went into the foundations of project management, looking at both agile and predictive methodologies and how they are tested in the PMP exam. Today, we will dive deeper into unpacking how you need to approach these questions that come up in the PMP exam and how Knowledge Hut can actually help you with that in terms of mock tests, exams, and much more support along the way. Now, we will go over, we have on board our expert for the day. We're very pleased to have Mr. Debashis Jena on board. Debashis has trained several thousand professionals around the world, really, more than 22,000, as you can see, and has conducted over 1,100 project management and program management workshops around the world, also trained at many corporate settings. And yes, a wealth of experience that we have brought to you today. So, welcome, Debashish. Very excited to have you here. And just before I hand it over to you, a few things I'd like to just share in terms of housekeeping and things to keep in mind. This is going to be a good amount of almost 45 minutes that we're going to get into, and at the end of this session you will receive a certificate as well of completion of this particular session. And for those of you who have been with us throughout, will get the certificate for the series as well. You will find the recording on our YouTube channel as a special series that we will be taking you over there. And this is a completely interactive session, so please feel free to put in your questions. And as and when you need clarification, keep using the chat and letting us know. You can also use the Q&A tab that we have over here. And Deepshish, completely up to you. If you find that you want to take a pause and kind of take the questions there, please do so. Otherwise, we will help you to collate all of that and we will play that back for you soon as we're through with that. So, with that, let me hand it over to Mr. Debashis Jena.
Thanks a lot, Christabel, and welcome you all to this third episode on PMP. So in this one, we're going to talk about how do you create a study plan, personalized study plan for PMP. So just one thing, Christabel, for questions, I would pause at logical points. I won't have a constant watch and chat. I would need your help. And okay,
Certainly.
and there are some, if they're missed out, we can definitely take them at the end of the session.
Absolutely. Sure. Yep.
Right then. So basically what I'm going to talk about is 5 aspects that you should incorporate when you prepare a personalized study plan, right? So which are those 5 aspects? A quick look first before we deep dive. One, design your winning roadmap. We need to put up a roadmap for the PMP certification journey. Decode the exam secret language. That's very essential. And how do we do that? There are a lot of tips and tricks with regard to this. I'll be sharing a few more in our trainings, but Some I'll tell you as of now. Third thing, crack the scoring and timing. You got to practice the timing part. Okay, so a lot of people struggle with this. That's another aspect you need to build in. And the fourth one, blended learning is what you can plan for, live classes, some self-study, mentorship that's being offered by upGrad KnowledgeHut, mentorship check-ins. All these would make a good blend, good recipe to crack the PMP exam. And the fifth one, it's not about clearing PMP. It's something you do right after you get certified. Supercharge your career. All right. So these are 5 aspects I'm going to talk about. So let's get started with the very first thing, which is about designing your winning roadmap. Here, the very first thing you need to do is pick up a realistic end date for your exam. Don't keep it open-ended. So decide, when do you want to write the exam? 2 months after, a month after, or 3 months after you. Let it be realistic. Don't be over ambitious. And then you walk backwards. So reverse engineer your, exam date. All right. And once you do that, then you'll have weekly goals and all, creative timelines and weekly goals. So ask yourself, what do I need to accomplish this week to be able to keep on track with my target exam date? Okay, so that's the very first thing. So this backward planning, it helps in a couple of ways, like uh, creates a sense of urgency for you, which is needed, or else you get lethargic. I mean, people generally do that. Maintain focus, all right? And ability to measure progress. If you don't have a plan, what do you measure progress against, right? So that's what is about reverse engineer your target date. Then another aspect here should be the 3-phase approach, as I call them, the 3 phases: foundation, application, and consolidation. Let me explain. Foundation first. So this phase is your live training session, all right? So you should start with that. So if I put up, say, 5-6 weeks of plan total journey, so this could be my week one, okay, attending a training. And the advantage of this step is it would give you the structure. It would give you the structure, and secondly, you grasp the concepts. Okay, you learn the concepts, in the training. And when it's a structure, so the idea is you get to know what to study, in what order, where should I focus, and what not. So those people who start with self-study without getting into a formal training, then you might struggle. You don't know what to focus on, what not, what should be the right sequence and all, what materials to study. You might get frustrated and give up. I tell that from my experience. So that's why let foundation be the first step, which is through, for formal training program. Then once done, then you understand the structure, the core concepts you would understand. Then comes the application stage. Now, this is where the real learning is going to happen. So if you look at the length of this stage, if I have a plan of 5 to 6 weeks, then this could be like 3 weeks, week 2, 3, and 4 maybe. And if it is very aggressive for you, you could increase it by a week. And now what happens in this stage is, here is where you deep dive into your study materials. You would have received the study materials. You deep dive. In the training you just heard, hear the trainer, understand the concepts. So when you go through the study material, that's how you retain the concepts. You may have understood from a training, but unless you go back and revise, you won't retain that. Okay, so you retain the concepts. And another focus for you in the application stage should be on how to apply the concepts rather than just to memorize. All right. So please get this right. PMP exam is not a memory exam. You'll have to understand the application. This is where, you know, um, upgrades, scenario-based learning that's available could be very helpful. So we got a lot of project scenarios, case studies, sample documents. So these would help you, understand how the PMP concepts would play out in the real world situations. So this is very, very critical, because it's not just about the exam is all about interpreting the questions and not recalling definitions. They don't ask you that in the exam, right? And then come to the third phase, consolidation. Now, a lot of people would believe from the first 2 phases, the training and my application, I'm good. I have all the knowledge. Why don't I go ahead and write the exam? No, The third step, consolidation, I must say, this is the most misinterpreted phase. All right. So this is about your mock exams. Again, we got a huge bank of questions at upgrad knowledge at more than 2000 questions we have. So you need to practice them. All right. So you need to not just take the mock exams, but you analyze them also. Right. So find out, what are your weak areas. So you get a scorecard, right? So you get to know where you're doing better, where you are not so good. So you got to focus on these areas. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's what we do here. So the idea here is, and those questions that you get incorrect, look at the explanations that's provided to find out, you know, what did you get wrong and why. That's where again a learning would happen. Some misconceptions that you have developed, you're gonna fix it here in this particular step. Very well. Then the third thing that I would suggest to add in your winning roadmap is create a smart study plan. You must have heard of this SMART, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. That's a common acronym we use everywhere. But how do I link it to the PMP study plan? Yeah, everything here also it got to be smart. So when I say specific here to mean you make a plan like you'd say, today I'm going to learn stakeholder engagement. Not today I'm going to study PMP. Now that's not smart. So PMP, no, be specific. What's your goal for the day, for the week? Okay, that's what I mean by specific. Measurable. Measurable to mean, set your goals weekly, daily goals and all, and track, So that's how we get to know whether you are on the right path or not. Achievable to mean, I mean, don't be over ambitious. Don't say, I'm going to spend 6 hours studying. I mean, maybe while the fact is 2 hours is barely what you can manage. So be realistic when you're making your plan. So find out how much time can you devote beyond your work, your family life, right? So be realistic. Relevant to mean do not study unnecessary stuff. If there are a lot of materials available out there in the market that can prepare you for the exam. All right. In fact, if you go by PMI's recommendation, they have listed some 11 books you can find on their site, which can be used as a reference for PMP. Well, I don't discourage you to read those books. They're very good books you can. But if just passing the exam is your goal, it's too much to read, 11 books. So focus. So your trainer would guide you what materials you should be studying, what you should be focusing on. So study what's relevant. Focus on what aligns with the exam. All right. And the last thing, time bound. That is have milestones, deadlines. So that would create a winning roadmap. So which is one of the aspects. Now I would get to the second aspect that you need to incorporate in your study plan. Decode the exam secret language. In fact, I would say this is the most important thing. And honestly, having trained so many people, I have trained 10,000 people, by the way, only for PMP. And based on my experience, I can tell you something. If somebody is not able to make it in the PMP exam, you would find most of the cases is not about knowledge. The person had the knowledge. Then what is the problem? Interpretation of questions or the wrong mindset. So that's very essential for the exam. Okay, so decoding exam secret language is very helpful. And when it comes to that, there are a lot of such tips and tricks and all that we share during the training. A few I'm going to talk about now. So number one here, understand that PMP is a mindset test. It's not a memory test. It's not. Look, PMP is not asking you to recite processes or principles or inputs, tools. No. Then what is it that they're testing? They're testing how you think like a project manager in a real world situation, right? So please note every question in the PMP exam is situational. And when I say situational, they don't give you a long one-page story about a project. It's just a few lines, 2, 3 lines, but there'll be a small situation. And every question would be like, what would you do? We don't have questions of the type, what do you know? So there are no definitions, no direct questions in the exam. It's all situation, right? So it's not a memory test. You don't have to go and, you know, just memorize stuff. You have to build that mindset. Okay. Then another thing, recognize question types. So there are a few types of questions in PMP exam. All right. I can't cover the whole list here, but just a few types I'm going to touch upon. Like the first one you find here, what should the PM do next first? There'll be a lot of questions of this type. You know, this is about, is testing your ability to act proactively based on the current stage of the project. That's what is being checked. So the question would be something like, um, you know, some situation given, all right? And then the question would terminate in the last line. It would ask, what would you do next or first? When the question asks that, you must understand it's not asking you for the best answer. It's asking you what's the next immediate step. For example, I'll do one thing, a quick example I'll show you. Just allow me a sec. Yeah, read the first one. I hope this is visible. Can I make it some better?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, just read the first one, everybody. I'm reading out, okay? A change request floated by a stakeholder could increase risk in the project. As per the initial assessment of the project manager, what should the project manager do first? Look at that. When the question says first or next, we got to look at the next best next step actually. So the key here is, um, so let me tell you a rule we generally teach in the PMP training. So whenever you come across a new issue, or a new risk, or a new change, for all of them, you know what is the first action? Impact assessment is the first action. Everything else would follow. So there'll be options that talk about solving that problem. There'll be an option that says discuss with sponsor. They're not the right answer. The right answer is perform impact assessment. So C in this case would be the first answer. I'm not able to write. So C is the right answer. All right. So initiate a detailed impact assessment. That's what I meant as first, or next action. There'll be a lot of questions that would be of this way. Coming back, another type of question would be, what's the best course of action? That's another kind of question. So here, it's like all the options would be technically correct, but only one of them would be most PMI aligned. You got to figure out. So this is very difficult. Now, there are a lot of things. There's no just some, what, um, magic stick that I can provide you to make out which is the right one. So there are various good practices. Like when we talk about PMP kind of questions, the PMP mindset is emphasizes on collaboration, communication, ethics, value delivery. So options that align towards these would generally be the best answer. Okay, that's another kind of question. A third type of question, let's see, what would you do now versus what could you have done to prevent it? So here, this kind of question, see, is checking your ability to distinguish between reactive versus preventive actions, right? So if a question of the make a now kind of question means, what's the immediate resolution? That's what they're looking for. Here, options that talk about preventing its recurrence, they're not the right answer, right? On the contrary, questions of the make have done kind of question. So here they're looking for preventive planning. Yeah, so these are the types of questions. There are various other types also. That's something you should learn. Then the third thing, identify the context, agile or it's a non-agile environment. So you must be aware already PMP exam has a lot of questions on agile. Now you've got to first make out whether the question is on agile make or not an agile make, because the answer will immensely vary depending on that. And if you wonder, how do I make out whether it is an agile question or in the predictive context? That's very easy to make out. Look for words. If you see any of the agile terms, sprint, iteration, scrum master, servant leadership, any term of agile you've seen, then that's of agile make. And if you find no term, agile term has been used, that's of the predictive make. Once you've done that, so you're in the right path now. All right. Um, yeah. So it's the complete mindset would vary depending on agile or predictive, right? Because agile has various concepts that are not applicable in predictive. For example, servant leadership, team empowerment, continuous feedback, welcoming changes. close collaboration with customer and all. So these are certain aspects of agile which doesn't apply in a predictive kind of a environment. So you have to rightly make out. If you miss this context, then what you answer may be technically correct, but contextually is not. So you lose a mark for that. Maybe I'll just an example of this. Let's see if I have an example to show you. One moment. Yeah, check out the second question. Check out this one. I'm reading out. You have recently joined an organization that has recently adopted agile practices. The product owner is confused on how to have the team. No, that's not the right question that I was talking about right now. I'll build it, just hear out, ignore that. So the question would be like, the team is stuck because of lack of clarity on a piece of requirement, right? And then the question, terminates with, what should the project manager do now? Or what should the project manager advise? Okay, that's the question. Now, look, the answer would much depend on agile and non-agile. For example, so if this question were in of agile make, let's say the question said an agile team, all right, I just add that. Now, there'll be one option which says refer the requirement document. That's one of the options. Okay. That is not the right answer. Why not? See, if the question were in predictive, look, the only change. Now, the same question, we move it to predictive. The right answer is refer the requirement document. But in agile context, why is it not the right answer? Because in agile, we don't create requirement document. Instead, we would have a product backlog. Those who know agile can appreciate that. So that product backlog replaces the requirements document, which we would typically have in a predictive kind of environment. So if you miss the context, you get to the wrong answer. That's what I meant as context. Master scenario decoding. Now, what does that mean? Okay, so yeah, this is very important. Understand, every PMP question is like a mini story. Okay, it's a small story. Your job is to unpack it strategically. You got to make out what exactly the question is asking. What is the pain point? So I must tell you, there'll be a lot of redundant information in the question statement. I choose to call them as garbage. So there'll be useful information and there'll be garbage. So you have to be careful what's useful and what is garbage. So you pick up only information that's required or relevant to answer that question. Yeah. So finding that pain point is so very important. Right. So you got to find out what's gone wrong. Is it a scope issue or is it a communication breakdown or a risk? So once you could make out the pain point of the question, then you most likely are going to land up on the right answer. Then you could apply simply your, PMI mindset to reach out to the answer. That's what I meant as scenario decoding. Eliminate wrong choices tactically. So it's a very common thing that in every question, couple of options would be easily you can eliminate. They would be irrelevant, not in line with the question, or there'll be something technically incorrect about them, which is quite easy to make out. Generally, we struggle with a couple of options which are pretty close and good, which is where you have to figure out, the best answer. So apply elimination, very, very important. By that, you increase the chances of, answering it correctly. And the last thing I got to tell you to practice this exam secret language is use our question banks. So a lot of questions. So the more you take, you develop that exam intuition you're going to be developing, which is what is needed. So that was all about decode the exam secret language. Now, before I go to the third aspect, I think I'll pause and see if there's a question. Okay, so quickly check. Somebody asked, could you suggest a good source for mock exams? Mm-hmm. Oh, you already said apart from upgrade once, I would have said our mock exams are really excellent. But if you want something beyond that, I would suggest this one, PMI Study Hall. Maybe I'll write in the chat. PMI Study Hall. You may consider. There are many, many, but if you
Yeah.
ask me the best, I would say this one. Check out PMP, sorry, PMI study hall. That's it. So this is
Thank you for that.
PMI's mock exam. Yeah,
Thanks for that, Debashish. And
right.
Ashwini, right, who asked this question. Thank you for asking, and for everyone else who has reached out with that. Yes, for from Knowledge Hut, you do have some resources which we make available freely, even on our website. You'll find that, but we have much more value packed into the program, and we have um, a special colleague of mine who's going to be coming on soon after Debashish finishes, who's going to help you with more on that, Ashwini. We will unpack many layers of that because that is going to be the key focus for today. All right. So we'll thank you for taking that pause. Debashish, back to you.
Yeah, I'll just take one last question before I move on.
Sure.
The question is from Rama. May I ask you the pass percentage for PMP exam, please? Okay, just to understand. Okay, any notes? There are two questions. I'll take up both. Coming to the pass mark. Okay, don't bother. PMI doesn't disclose it. So it's based on psychometric analysis. All right. So the exam point of difficulty keeps varying depending on how people are lately doing in the exam. So it's like this. You know what is the passing percentage as published by PMI? 67% people pass the exam in the first attempt. That's the PMI's global number. I would also take the opportunity to present ours. So, what is the stats we have at Knowledge at upGrad? You know, it's been 90% plus people cleared in the first attempt. Okay, that's the kind of stats we have. Anyways, coming back. So, it's like this. Uh, they have to fail 37 out of 100. All right. So wherever the cutoff is. Okay. So that's psychometric analysis. But having said that, that's why there's no such number published by PMI, whether it is 70 or 60, they don't. But since you asked, I'll tell my best guess. I repeat, that's my best guess. Okay. Not official number. I would say it should be somewhere around 65%. So I would say if you are able to answer 65% questions correctly, most likely you should pass the exam, right? One last thing, any notes to understand the agile? Okay, for agile, there are so many sources. A couple of things I would say here. One would be Scrum, the Scrum guide. So I must tell you, you might already be aware, agile is a blanket term used for several methods or frameworks or practices, Scrum, XP, Kanban, Scrum Band. There are many DSDM and others. So if you look at the content of the agile content of PMP exam, is more aligned to Scrum. Okay, so you should know the Scrum. So Scrum guide, I would strongly recommend, which is a very brief one, and there'll be a lot of questions. I would recommend another one. I'm putting it in the chat. PMI um, Agile Guide. So PMI has got a Agile Guide, which is again a brief one, around 82 pages. So these are a couple of things that I would suggest for Agile study. Of course, our course material would cover that. If you want something beyond, these are two good sources. Very well. I'll come back and take up the remaining. So another aspect is the timing. So if you ask me, is the time relaxed in PMP exam? I would say not really. Not really. I have come across a lot of people who said I had to rush through the last few questions. Even some people who said I simply missed out 10, 15 questions, right? I seldom come across somebody who says, hey, I completed the exam 1 hour before the time or even 30 minutes before time. Seldom. And the reason being, the questions are tricky. You got to read them 2 times, maybe three times also. It's very tricky, confusing and all. You got to read them in between the lines. That's why the time is stringent, and you got to build this skill as well, other than interpreting questions. And the format of the exam, you might be aware, there are a total of 180 questions in the exam. All are objective, of course, and you have 230 minutes. So 180 questions and 230 minutes. So which comes down to 1.25 minutes per question, right? Or in seconds, it's like roughly around 76 seconds per question you have. And during the exam, they do provide you with 2 breaks. All right. So the breaks are so planned. You take up 60 questions. After 60 questions are done, there'll be a break one of 10 minutes. and then you come back and do another block of 60 questions. There'll be another break too. You come back and do the remaining 60. So that's how the breaks are positioned, after every 60 question. So you got to do a time check. So what works is, this can be set as a target 75 minutes. So you do your time check this way. Each block of 60 questions you should be completing in about this 675 minutes. That's the kind of time you have. And very important is, don't get stuck on a single question. So this is something that a mistake that many people commit, flag and move on. So please remember, in the exam, we have the option to park a question. They have that option marked for review. Check that. Later, you can come back and, revisit the question if time permits. So if you read the question, then, and you have made out some answer, you're not sure though, answer that. Don't leave it blank. You may not have the time to come back. So answer it and check that mark for review. So the idea is, please understand, there's no point to wrestle with a single question for 3 minutes. No point. It's not worth it, right? So, and also, you know what? If you could make out the answer in a couple of minutes, most likely you won't, even if you spend 5 minutes on that, right? Just forget. So be clear. Our goal is not perfection. It's not. So what's our goal during the exam? Is completion, with clarity. This is what is our goal. So be clear on that. So some people I have seen, they would do that. They will go slow initially in the first block of 60 and trying to be perfect. All right. And then you know what happens? You push behind schedule and then you develop stress. And that's the last thing we want. Under stress, you don't answer questions well. So the idea is accuracy improves when you keep your mental rhythm steady. So that's why this time check is very important. And what can really help in time check is, again, our simulators. Our simulators have a lot of purpose. You learn and all. Another one is time check. So before the exam week, you must take a couple of simulators, real way, as if it were the real exam, in one sitting to do your time check. So that's how, it's very difficult, I must tell you, sitting for 230 minutes. So you build that habit as well, right? Well, so this is on the timing and scoring part. Well, then, now coming to another aspect that you should build in your study plan is blended learning for breakthrough results. When I say blended learning, you can blend all of these. Live classes, you will take up. Self-study, of course, you would do after the live classes. That's like our foundation, first phase. It's like the second phase application we saw. And then a third thing, mentorship. Use knowledge at, upgrade knowledge at provided mentorship check-ins and all. Okay, even that would be helpful. So how do they help? Let me quickly touch upon live classes. We spoke about it. It offers the structure. Live classes are beneficial this way. It provides the structure, what to study, what to focus on, what order shall we study, that structure is provided through live classes. All right. And second, accountability. Why do I say accountability? Look, when you attend live classes and you're punctual, you would show up consistently. And when you do that, not only that you learn the concepts, you build that habit for study also, right? So you become accountable. So also live interactions would help you stay engaged and motivated, such that you are tomorrow back on time with an open mind again to learn. So live classes are very, very helpful for structure and accountability. Self-study, self-study, flexibility. I'm sure you understand these offer flexibility at your own time, convenience, space. You go back and study that. And we discussed that it helps in deeper retention. So in the live class, you may have understood the concepts, but unless you go come back and self-study, you won't retain it. All right. So this is the advantage that self-study is going to provide. And then coming to the mentorship, a mentor shortens your learning curve. That's how they help. Yeah. So they give you that personalized feedback, correct your blind spots that you cannot make out. While learning something is quite easy to build a misconception, right? It can, but you cannot make out. That's by default going to happen. Who could help? That's where mentorship check-ins could be helpful to provide that feedback. So that's the advantage of mentorship. And a shift, that's another very important one. Mentorship can help you shift or, that mindset towards the mindset that's required for the exam. I call that as PMI mindset. So blending this learning would be a good package for breakthrough results in the PMP exam. And lastly, if you got friends, colleagues who are also preparing for the exam same time as you, creating study groups, that's a great idea. I've seen some people doing that. Study groups, if you join, many benefits. One is it's like you decide today I'm going to talk about this topic to others, and tomorrow someone else will do. So here there'll be accountability to speak about that particular topic. You will spend effort, seriously learn that. Okay, that's one, right? And confusion, people would ask you questions. Your concepts get clearer. That's one. And more than this, what is the benefit of study group is motivation. So even if you're getting demotivated, but fellow members are on, seeing them, you feel motivated. You would also let the ball rolling, right? So that's the advantage of blended learning. Now I bring you to the last aspect of your study plan. In fact, although I included this, this is not about clearing the PMP exam. This starts after you clear the PMP exam, right after that. So please note, PMP is not, is a credibility magnet, right? So use it to reposition yourself, okay? And a couple of tips around that. So this is very, very important. So as I said, PMP is not a credential, just a credential. It's a career accelerator, I would say. Okay, I've seen that with 10,000 people. So with PMP, you grow, you take on higher responsibilities as, on the way. So a couple of things you could do to reposition yourself. You update your, resume to add PMP certified, must do that. Okay, so that's one thing that's quite obvious you would do. And highlight PMP aligned achievements in your CV. Talk about PMP aligned achievements and all. Okay, so it's like making a statement: led agile project, delivering 15% cost saving. So this is like uh, you know you are kind of speaking the recruiter's language. That's what they look for, the outcome that's coming out. So your CV should be updated accordingly. Another one, LinkedIn. Okay, so go update your headline in LinkedIn, to add PMP certified or add PMP against your name on LinkedIn. And another thing is post your journey. See, the idea, I would say, don't underestimate the power of posting your PMP journey. You must publicize that. Okay, so share your success story, your journey, how did you prepare and all. Add your digital badge, PMP badge that you would get as evidence, you must add it. Thank the mentors, trainers, whoever helped you during the journey. So if you do that, that would, kind of, increase your visibility and start engaging. So three things: add PMP, post your journey, and start engaging. When I say start engaging, comment on project management related posts, share your viewpoints, join groups. There are a lot of groups, PMI groups, project PMP related groups and all. Join, in, get into discussions and all. So the engagement, the more you engage, that brings visibility. So people notice, and then opportunities would flow, right? So that's on LinkedIn. And lastly, your interviews, how could it help in interviews? So this is something I'll tell you. One is the PMI language itself. So what is the world's project management language? That's PMP, right? So when you sit in an interview, when the questions are asked, so what's that dictionary? That's PMP, PMBOK. So after your journey, you'd be very comfortable. So you can, in your responses, you can use PMI terminologies, jargons, terms, and all. Okay, so that would kind of reflect that project management, you are experienced. And last thing, in your interviews, have you come across this STAR? It's a storytelling technique for interviews, STAR. So practice that. So if you haven't come across STAR very quickly, in STAR, S stands for situation. Situation to mean what is the context, right? Then T is task. Task to mean what goal, challenge, were you facing, you had to address on, what was on your hand. And then A is action. Action is where you say what you did to address that challenge. And the last one, R stands for result. Result is what is the outcome, right? So when you're posed a question, use this storytelling technique STAR to answer it. Meaning, I'll give an example. What I mean by STAR is like, let's say the recruiter asks, tell me about a time you led a complex project. That's a question. And you go on, it was 2.5 years ago when I managed a complex project. The customer was difficult. The requirements are constantly changing. The team was not, motivated. So you go on if you give such answers. So what could be a star answer to this? Okay, I'll give you an example of star answer to the same question. So first thing is situation. So I would say the situation is something like, we were tasked with launching a digital payments platform in a highly regulated environment. Okay, that was the situation. Then you get to the task. What is your goal objective? So the task was, I needed to manage cross-functional teams, meet compliance requirements, and deliver on time. So that was the task at hand. Then get to A. A is what action did you take? What did you do? Right? So possible answer to that, I would say, I used hybrid project management approach for the delivery of the project. So for the compliance legal part, we use predictive, where the timelines and scope were pretty much predefined. And for the development, rest of it, we use agile. And I engage key stakeholders early through regular demos. We used a RAID log to, manage risk and highlight dependencies. So that's like A. So this is how, you actioned it. What action did you take? And the last one, R. And the result was, we launched the project successfully within 5 months, achieved a 98% adoption. All right. Yeah. And passed all audits with zero findings. That was the result. So that's like a star answer. All right. So this is all I had for you. So the 5 steps or aspects that you need to incorporate in your PMP study plan. Once again, those 5 steps or aspects were: design your winning roadmap. Okay. Then learn to decode the exam secret language. We talked about the ways to do that. 3, manage your time. Okay. So learn keeping on time in the exam. 4, blend various types of learning for the best, results. And the last thing, how do you supercharge your career after getting certified? So that would be all from my side. I'll be very happy to take any questions you might have. I just check chat if I'm missing something. Christabel, you could help me with that. Okay.
Certainly, Debashis. Thank you so much for dropping those value bombs. And yes, on the chat, we do have some questions. Amandeep asks, is there any negative marking in PMP?
Answer is no. That's one good thing about PMP exams. So you must answer every question. Yes, no. Then
There's
I'm
a question.
reading. Yeah, go ahead, Christabel.
Yes, it's a question from Nikki. She says, why are so many companies as of late confusing PMP and CSM? Which one is more valuable?
My say, they're not to be compared. They are not to be compared. CSM is a certificate that you need to be working as a Scrum Master, lead a team, the Scrum way, Agile way, right? But PMP is CSM a project management guidance? No. You ask me which are the project management certifications that we have in the globe, popular ones. There are just 2 of them. One we talked about, PMP, another one is Prince2, is coming from the UK government, PeopleCert. Okay, so now PeopleCert, earlier from UK government. So Prince2 and PMP are the most popular certifications when we say project management. Not CSM is not a project management certification. Then you would say, why not SAFe or any other? There are a bunch of agile certifications again. So CSM is one of the agile certifications, but it's not a replacement of PMP, not at all, right? And in fact, I mean, CSM is good. I don't say don't go for it. If you're using Agile, you got to be working as a Scrum Master. Good to go for that certification. All right. But PMP is not a replacement for that. So there's no confusion. Those recruiters who want project managers, they look for PMP or some other Prince 2 if they are using the Prince 2 ways of working.
Right.
Okay. Which one is more valuable in today's market? I think the same question, right? I told you. The both
Mm.
have value, but it's all about where do you want to land up? You want to be a Scrum Master? Fine. Don't go for PMP. Go for CSM.
Mm.
If you want to be a project manager, then you have the options of PMP. And as I said, Prince 2 as well, if that's the guidance being followed in the organization you want to land up in.
Right. Sachin asks a very pertinent question. What's the most effective way to balance PMP prep with my current job responsibilities? Do you recommend self study, formal training, or a hybrid approach?
Okay. Well, Sachin, that's not your problem. That's everyone's problem. Because who does PMP? College graduates do not go, or students do not go for PMP. PMP is prerequisite is project management experience 3 years. So those going for PMP certification are all employed. They have work to do, office. So that's why, what is recommended is you have to make a discipline and work. That's what I was telling you, you make a plan accordingly. You know how much of time, maybe I didn't touch upon this point. If you want to know in number of hours that generally people spend, to write the PMP exam, I would say 100 to 150 hours of study. 100 to 150 is what works for most people. I give a range because it depends on your current level of knowledge. For some people, 100 would suffice. Some may need as much as 150. So now you do your calculation that way. Say, I'm working, I know, but I'm going to sacrifice on other stuff and I'm going to devote 2 hours every day. I make a plan. Every day, 2 hours I'm going to spend. A bit more during weekends, maybe. So you need around 6 weeks to invest this amount of effort. You'd be done in 6 weeks, 5 weeks, or maybe 7, 8 weeks at the most. So this is what I would say. Make a discipline. And what doesn't work, you say, okay, today is the day to study PMP. You study today, and next time you sit is 1 month after. You forget everything you learned. That would not work. So what works is a discipline. So prepare your roadmap accordingly. 2 hours every day, I would put it. All right. So that's one part of your question. The second part, you blend what kind of live class you must attempt. In fact, self study is fine, but only after a live class. You start with self study, you would struggle. Now, who would tell you the exam type of questions? Who would tell you the tricks and all? I train 10,000 people, so I know the ins and out. I mean, me as representing any good PMP trainer is all right. That's what I mean. So live class is very much required. So you have to undergo the live class and thereafter you do the self study. So that's my recommendation to you, Sachin. Hope I answered your question.
I think there's a part two to his question as well, where he talks about 14 years of experience in SaaS and EdTech. And should he consider certifications like CAPM, CSM, or Prince 2? I think you touched on this already.
Sure, sure. First of all, CAPM I would reject because
Mm.
CAPM is meant for CAPM, by the way, for others' benefit. This certification comes from PMI again. It stands for Certified Associate in Project Management. So, in simple language, CAPM is a junior level certification. PMI has introduced this for those who do not have that 3 years of project management experience to go for PMP. So, the fact that you have 14 years of experience, I would not recommend you to CAPM. So, that's ruled out. We can talk about then PMP. In fact, you can think of PMP. And Prince 2, if you next I'll talk about Prince 2, if the company uses Prince 2 as the method, there are certain organizations, especially if you're catering to companies or markets in Europe, UK, there, these areas, Europe is where Prince 2 has seen relatively more recognition. So if a company is actually using Prince 2 as their method, all right, then they would demand the project manager to know that. So that is why whether PMP or Prince 2, you can decide basis the target organization or the target, area where you're going to be based out of. That's between PMP and Prince 2. But CAPM, I told you why to rule out. Better go for PMP, which is a more high level certification. And CSM, I've already answered. You want to work as a Scrum Master? Fine. Then go for CSM. See, if CSM is not bad. CSM is easily earned as well, but that's for Scrum Master. I hope I answered the question. If there's a follow up, let me know.
Yeah, I think just to Nikki's point, so her thing is in the job posting, the companies seem to have put it out as CSM or PMP, which is strange, is what she seems to be pointing out.
Ah, some people actually do that. I have also seen,
Mm,
some people, there is a bit of overlap there, whether a Scrum Master or project manager. Okay,
mm,
companies use these two roles interchangeably. They do
interchangeable.
some cases. That's why they want somebody who has learned something, either CSM or PMP would do. But if a company is looking for a serious project manager, they would most likely say PMP is what they want. Okay.
Right. I guess that's also kind of reflective of where the company may be at in terms of their ways of working, isn't it?
Even that, true. Even that.
Yeah. Awesome.
One question from Amandeep. In India, which certification is more suitable, PMP or Prince 2? I'll take that. If you go by numbers, Amandeep, PMP would far outweigh Prince 2 in India. All right, it would. And by the way, I'm a Prince 2 trainer also. I've been dozens of organizations training Prince 2. There are some companies, even in India, who follow Prince 2, and hence they want their people to be Prince 2 certified. But again, I'm repeating the answer. PMP is the answer to your question, Amandeep. PMP is more recognized, quite more popular in organizations as compared to Prince 2 in India. The next question I'll take from Deva Darshan. Can a candidate with discontinued bachelor's degree, with 15 years total experience, with 4.7 in project? Okay, yeah. So if it was a discontinued degree, then I would not consider that as a degree. So kind of you didn't do the degree, if I get your question correctly. You didn't complete it. If you complete it, there's no problem. You have your bachelor's. But if you
Are you seeing my
discontinued
screen?
also, yeah. So even if you discontinued, please note, yeah, some black box. It's okay. We don't need that now. Yeah. So coming back, um, even if you don't have a bachelor's degree, please note, you can go for PMP exam certification, but the prerequisite varies. So those who have a bachelor's degree need 3 years of project management experience. If you don't have a bachelor's degree, then it increases to 5 years. And if I read your question, I think 4.7 years you mentioned. See, almost there. Another few months, you should be good to go for PMP, right? What after PMP? Somebody asked. Wonderful. So I'm a program management trainer. You're most welcome. Even portfolio management. Well, so this is the learning path, I would say. Project, then project managers. Although this is not the only career path, but one of the very common career path is program management. So project managers mature in become program management. There are program management certifications, and then we have portfolio management also. So that would be the career path. Somebody asked, what is the validity of PMP certificate? Exactly 3 years from the day you earn it, right? Does product management help? You mean help in PMP certification or generally product management in the industry? How much is it recognized? I don't know what exactly was the question. After PMP. That's a different domain. It's good. Product management is gaining a lot of popularity this way. So organizations focus towards product management has lately increased in the recent years. So doing something in product management is definitely a good idea. You can think about it. All right. So product management doesn't you take you to the next level as such, like a program management takes you, but that's an add-on skill which would somehow help. Okay, if you're into product, if the company you work for is into product management, the role you get into is product development, enhancement, and all. Then product management is a good thing to think about. After 3 years, how PMP certification will renew? Okay, one good thing about PMP certification is you never have to rewrite the exam. It takes two things to renew the certification. One, earn 60 PDUs. PDU stands for Professional Development Unit. All right. So that is, they call it as continuing certification requirement. Now,
Mm.
in the limited time, I won't get into the details of how to earn PDU, but very quickly, attending conference, you get PDU. You join, you know what, you attend such webinar, we are going to give you
Yes,
PDUs.
in fact, they will receive
Yeah,
PDU for this one
you
also.
will receive. So you don't have to pay money for PDUs. You, after you get certified, I'll tell you, you would by default be a member of PMI. There are a lot of recorded webinars, short webinars on a wide range of topics. Just run through them, you get PDUs. So PDUs is free. You got to be little, active. That's it. And second thing, 150 US dollars. PMI needs some money to maintain. So 150 USD and 60 PDUs is all it takes to get your certificate renewed for another 3 years. I got certified in the year 2006, and ever since I'm doing every 3 years $150 and 60 PDUs. I'm a PMP in good standing. I never have to rewrite the exam. No matter PMP exam changes, PMBOK changes, whatever happens, you never rewrite. I hope I answered the question. We have a couple of
Yes.
minutes left. Any more?
Yeah, yeah. Debashish, thank you so much for that. You've touched on so many very, very key areas, and we've had a wonderful audience. Thank you so much for all your questions. And I want to bring in my colleague Sai, who is the head of PMP Advisory department. And Sai, I have one question for you, really. Now, over the years, you've advised many, many mid career professionals who are interested in pursuing PMP, really taking their careers to the next level, and particularly super indexing on project management. Now, based on your experience, what proportion of these professionals do you see as typically going on to successfully pass the PMP exam?
Well, thank you so much, Chris. This was the question which most of our learners even have that. Uh, with my experience of having said that, I spoke to 1,500 plus learners in my last 3 years of professional career, especially guiding learners for programs like PMP and Prince2. I would confidently vouch for one thing. There is one important study plan that learners will have to go through in structured format to make sure that they are well prepared for PMP. Uh, I mean, there is a floating thought process across that the learners also can go ahead and have videos seen at Udemy and courses like YouTube. There are multiple platforms which offers project management tutorials, and but that lacks a study plan, that lacks right simulations to make sure that they are ready for the PMP examination. Maybe that's the differentiator for people who are ready to have, having said that, ready to have and go ahead and pass the examination versus not.
Right. Thank you for that, Sai. And yes, just to get into, a couple of things that Debashish also shared, which is about really decoding the PMP exam secret language. And yeah, the context, the meaning that one takes out of these questions without having the requisite context of agile versus predictive. And she's really demonstrated to us how very innocently one can try to read off that and land with the wrong answer just because you don't have the correct thing, correct context set to that. So a couple of those points which Debashish really shared is something that you can keep thinking about and really taking with you into this, which I think comes only with that level of seeping yourself into the practice and the mocks, the couple of scenario based questions, so many things to really, really go into with that. All right, Sai, over to you. I think we have a very interesting slide up over here.
Thank you, Chris. And yes, as you rightly said, that's the only differentiator that we come across is a learner who's precisely structured at a study plan versus not is the clear differentiator. And I think the slide talks about it a lot. Uh, yeah, this is a path for guaranteed PMP success. Uh, any aspirant, any aspiring project manager will have to go through a journey of training first, should understand the entire curriculum that what a project manager is supposed to do, different curriculums involved about risk management, resource optimization, resource utilization, and that starts from the learning phase. So basically, once somebody goes through the learning path, and that is when the study plan follows. Once you complete your entire 36 of learning from PMI, and I mean, the trainers go through the entire curriculum, and that is when, once the training is completed, follows by study plan, and then the study plan that we're discussing about, which has mocks, simulations, which make sure that each and every aspiring project manager is ready for having a simulation of the project management examination. And one has to go through this journey. Without this journey, I can vouch that it becomes really difficult for somebody to be precisely good at passing PMP in their very first attempt, considering the complexity of the examination. As rightly Mr. Debashis said at the start of this session, that PMP is a tougher examination and it requires a psychometric and as well as it's a scenario-based examination. Unlike other certifications that we have like Scrum, right? So one has to go through this cycle of steps to make sure that they are precisely ready to give their examination in the very first attempt and make sure that they pass it.
Yes. Yeah, another thing which really stuck with me from what Debashish covered was use question banks to develop exam intuition, right? Because then it becomes second nature. You'll know what to kind of expect rather than being taken by surprise. Yes, Sai, you can also take us through these various kinds of supports.
Yes, Chris. So to all the learners who, or to all the aspiring project managers who have been in this session, this is what I wanted to introduce. This is the specific KnowledgeHut upgrade advantage. It starts with question banks, examination and free mock simulators, and a mentor-led study plan that's crafted and curated for all the aspiring project managers. So yes, let's deep dive into a bit about mocks and simulations. Aspiring project managers, as we discussed about, the first step being training. As sometime before we discussed about something called PDUs, which is clearly, craftedly explained by Mr. Debashis, stating that PDU is a professional development unit. Indeed, you will be also getting PDU certificate for attending this webinar as well. So it is a mandate that one has to go through 36 PDUs, which is 36 contact hours and earn 36 professional development units to entirely cover the project management curriculum, get into the shoes of a project manager and understand what a real life project manager is supposed to do, what and what not. That is something that you'll clearly have an understanding. Post that actually starts the real life scenario, which is mocks and examinations. Because as we discussed the complexity about PMP examination, just elaborating a bit, we need to be well aware that this examination is as tougher as NEET that we also have. So precisely, we need to work on accuracy. As we have discussed about in the previous slides, for one question, we precisely get 76 seconds. That means we'll have to go through the question, we'll have to understand the question, and then precisely think which option will have a higher accuracy to the answer, and then precisely select it. So this 76-second time frame and then the process of understanding a question to finalizing an answer is a process that somebody will have to be very fast at doing it. And this comes with immense practice and self-study alongside with a mentor-led study plan and training at place. So that is the greatest KnowledgeHut upgrade advantage that learners can expect with us, that you will get a mentor-led study plan and an examination simulator, which is just a replica of PMP. So you will have 5 mock examinations and simulations given to you. So this mock examinations and simulations will help you to get an understanding that how a PMI examination looks like. And precisely once you become an expert and complete all of these mocks and simulations, I don't think you'll face any complexity in terms of attending the real PMP examination. So that's how the learning curve any aspiring project manager will have to go through. And yes, talking about the advantage, as I've already told you, covered about the learning phase and then mock and simulation and mentor-led study plan. Post that, you also can expect, before going ahead and giving the examination to PMI, there is something called application that you'll have to fill with PMI and get it approved, showcasing the experience that we have. So even that application assistance, doubts assistance is something that you can expect with us. So once you attend the 36 hours of learning, so you can also get the recording in the learning management system that you'll have. And precisely you can go back, have a refresher at any particular topic that you would want to have a refresher with. So this is clearly a differentiator, a well-structured study plan, which gives us a higher edge of clearing the PMP examination in the very first attempt.